Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. My name is Richard Holder and I will be your host today. Today we are presenting Eloqua Cloud Apps Customers Love. Joining me today are Rick Collins from ConnectWise and Tom Sychek from Forethought Marketing. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. We are recording today's presentation. If you don't wish to be recorded, you may disconnect now. If you have questions during the presentation, please click on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible, and we'll also have time at the end for additional questions. A recording of today's webinar and a copy of the presentation will also be available later. We will notify you via email with instructions. And now we have just a few minutes from our legal department. Thank you, everyone in legal. Today we will be discussing two of our customers' favorite cloud apps and introduce you to two new additions to our cloud app family. And now, with further ado, please welcome Rick Collins, Senior Manager, Marketing Operations at ConnectWise. ConnectWise is a global SaaS company providing business management software to technology service providers, primarily in the small and medium business space. Rick leads the marketing operations team, a role he's held for the past 3 years. His team manages ConnectWise's tech stack and budget, project management, data compliance, and lead management, marketing automation, and reporting. Today, Rick will discuss their journey implementing a privacy compliant solution for GDPR and establishing a solid foundation for compliance in the future. Rick, take it away.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Richard mentioned my name's Rick from ConnectWise, and so ConnectWise, our tech stack includes Eloqua is our marketing automation platform, and we have a custom CRM system, and that custom CRM system is integrated into Eloqua, and then we have a few other kind of homegrown systems that kind of bring it all together. We have a custom lead management system that sits separately. And we have our data warehouse where all of our data is stored. So with us not having Salesforce, we have some data challenges, disconnected system challenges. So what happened for us a few years ago when GDPR was kind of coming into the news, and we knew it was coming, we had to think through what we were going to do. So our legal team started working with a consultant that was covering at a very high level what we needed to do from a compliance perspective, but they really didn't get very deep into the weeds of what we needed to do from a marketing automation platform perspective. It was more just our privacy policy, terms and conditions, legal jargon. It didn't get into our systems, and they felt like we were covered. Don't worry about it. You guys are good. Those of us in the marketing automation side and on our team did not feel so great, and so we were really struggling through what we could do. And the challenges we really had when we were looking at compliance were, I mentioned the disconnected systems. We have multiple systems, so the data flows and lives in all those systems. And there's two-way integration in both, but there's no deletion integration. So I delete from one system, it doesn't delete from another. And we even have some and had some compliance and opt-in, opt-out integration issues where it wasn't passing that over from our marketing automation into our CRM and vice versa. Really poor data management. When I took over the team, it's just not something we had focused on. We were a volume-based shop, and we were always looking at lead volume, and we do a really good job of generating a lot of volume, but then managing that volume and looking for active engagement, how long should they live as a prospect in our system, even if they're unengaged, do we remove them, that kind of thing. That was never something we had addressed, and so we would keep things forever. And so when we started this process, I think we were at 1 million contacts in Eloqua. We got at a high of about 1.6 million contacts before we really started to address that. So our philosophy was we're going to keep contacts forever. It doesn't matter if it's junk, if they're hard bounce, if they're unengaged, if they've never opened anything, even if they opt out, we're going to keep them. we were missing key data points. We have a lot of different sources to bring leads into our marketing automation platform. Primarily the web is where we get most of them, but we have a lot of different avenues that someone can connect. We have quite a few trials that we offer online. And so some of those trials, when they were initially started, all they were asking for from a form perspective was an email address with nothing else, and there was no geo-IP capture or anything like that. So we brought in a ton of contacts without any country. So we had no idea where they were from, and or we had a lot that we didn't know the source of how it came in. Was it through an integration from another system? Was it through an import? Was it through a web form? And so there's just a ton of missing data that made trying to look at compliance, especially in a specific region, very challenging. Then we were missing those compliance actions. So we assumed that everybody in our database that weren't unsubscribed had actually taken the action of subscribing or opting in, and so we had more of an assumptive opt-in rule, I guess we would call it, and so we didn't have those clear actions or clear dates that yes, this person subscribed and opted in on this date by filling out this form. So we were missing a lot of that. The size I mentioned was very daunting. We just didn't know how we were going to tackle it with that many contacts, with that much missing data. And then when we talked to our legal team and expressed concerns, so marketing operations, we expressed concerns to our legal and compliance team. Hey, we don't think we're actually addressing this adequately. They kind of squashed those concerns and said, no, we're good, we got it. We worked with a consultant. We feel like we're covered. So when we brought some of these specific issues to our legal team, they just kind of pushed them aside and really didn't. I guess they just passed them along and didn't really help us address them. You can go to the next slide, Richard, please. So we became engaged with Forethought. We met Mark at a conference. He went through just what the GDPR apps covered and what they could do from an Eloqua perspective. And as we dug into them, we started looking into what things it covered, what would it help us do from a compliance perspective, from an app perspective, just in Eloqua, how could it help us address those? And then what could we do from that perspective to help address the other systems? So that was part of it. It really made us think more than just, hey, here's an app, go ahead and install it and do it. It was a lot of guidance, a lot of consultation that helped us understand the full aspect of the law and helped us, even though they're not legal advice, they tell us that 100 times. It definitely helped us understand what we needed to do and what were some ways we could address it. So I mentioned that having contacts in our system forever. So addressing how long should they live in the system, that was a concept that we had never even discussed, but it was a concept that they brought to us and really help us think through what are the processing rules that you have, and based on how it comes in and what kind of interest they're expressing or what action they've taken, what is that time to live, and how are you going to remove those that expire from those time to lives? How do we handle those that opt out or ask to be removed and the right to be forgotten? So all of those things that we really hadn't thought through, other than, hey, let's update our privacy policy on our website, they helped us address and helped us think through. It was more than just consent and cookies, right? And that was kind of where we felt like our legal team was kind of covering themselves, but not covering all of the other aspects of it. And I think the forethought solution and really the consultation that they gave us helped us move through that. We had a discussion early on after we talked to Mark, and he showed us the platform and showed us some of the things that they could do. I remember a few of us getting together and talking internally, hey, what do we think? Should we go down this path, or should we try to tackle this ourselves? And I would say our history has been, we'll tackle it ourselves, we can do this. We very quickly realized after that meeting there was no way we could create something like this ourselves in the time frame that we needed. We really got engaged about February of, I guess it was 2019, it probably would have been, before a few months before the GDPR compliance law was going into effect. So we knew there was no way we were going to be able to do anything on our own. But even then, just trying to really tackle that on our own was not something we were prepared to do or felt capable of doing. And being able to take these apps and the consultation that they provided, plug them straight into Eloqua, and then let that feed and control everything else was a huge time saver, and it simplified the entire process for us. They had a lot of templates that guided us through the process. I mentioned the basis for processing. That's probably the biggest thing that really made it clear that I could take that document that shows our basis for processing of all the different ways that a contact can make it, a contact or a lead can make it into our system. And I can show that to executive leadership. I can show that to our legal team to say this is how long someone should live based on the actions that they've taken, whether they've given us consent or not, what our logic for why we are engaging with this person is, so that if and when we get a complaint or someone asking how they got in our list, we can refer to that to say, well, you know, we're contacting you because of legitimate interest, and here's our policy around that. That helped us, kind of helped cover us and feel good about that process. The time to live I mentioned earlier as well, just the concept of we shouldn't keep contacts forever. It's probably a pretty basic thing that people think about, or it maybe isn't groundbreaking for you guys, but for us it was just something we had never considered, and it prompted a lot of other activity and decision making, prompted some really good conversations that we had internally to help us move through this. So you fast forward now almost a year since probably we had that conversation with Mark. We feel much better about the process. We have the apps installed, we have the rules in place, we have all of that happening in the background, and I know Tom's going to go into the details of how that happens, but we have all of that covered. We have time to live on every contact record in our database so that we know when they're going to expire if they don't take additional actions, and we have removed a decent amount. We've reduced our contact count significantly, which has helped our cost from a marketing automation cost perspective, but it has also made compliance and dealing with unengaged contacts and any type of sender profile issues that come along with that, that has helped us in a lot of those ways as well. So I'll pass that back over to you, Richard.
All right, thank you very much, Rick. That was a very informative presentation. Before we move on, I do have one question to ask you. I know that that ConnectWise has made some acquisitions recently. How are you addressing the needs of compliance for those acquisitions in your platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's daunting. I will definitely say that. Trying to it's two separate marketing automation platforms that are on two different platforms, and there's a lot of data on both sides. There's two separate CRM systems. So we've chosen to keep them separate for the first 6 to 8 months here. And then we are going through an exercise over the next probably 6 months to bring all the data together, go through, I would say we're using some of the templates and some of the thought process of a time to live and how engaged are people. Those decisions and that thought process is coming into play as we think through what are we bringing over into the new system, who are we gonna who's engaged already that we're going to keep, who has not engaged with us that we need to remove and see if we can interact with them in another way. So it's it has definitely helped us from the perspective of having compliance taken care of on the the ConnectWise side, and then bringing in the new companies. We have a solution that we can bring them in and combine those systems here in the future when we get to that.
Great. Thanks again, Rick. If you have more questions for Rick, please add them to the Q&A box. We'll have time for those at the end of the presentation. Now let's move on to our next topic, the upload wizard. If you are like me, one of your least enjoyable tasks as an Eloqua marketer is reviewing contacts from shows, events, or other sources before uploading them into Eloqua. The more time you spend carefully reviewing the data, the more accurate and likely it will conform to your standards, resulting in better leads for your sales teams. But it's a labor-intensive and manual process, which is also prone to errors. What if this could be more automated, applying all of your data standards to every upload? What if sales could upload their own prospecting list directly? And that's a frightening thought, right? And empower them to work at their own pace while still avoiding bad data. If this sounds like magic, well, maybe it is. To help Eloqua marketers streamline the lead import process and drive leads to sales, we've created the Upload Wizard, a cloud app that allows marketers to work smarter and improve data quality automatically. Allow me to introduce Tom Sychek, our Chief Technology Officer, who will share more about the Upload Wizard and show a demo of how it works. Tom, take it away.
Thanks, Richard. Hi, everybody. Richard, I'm going to share my screen now. So please let me know when you can see it. So our Upload Wizard, can you see the screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So, so our Upload Wizard does many things for you. Richard talked about one, which is the ability to validate data before it comes in. Many of you, I'm sure, have rules that you have in your spreadsheets, and you browse through the spreadsheets and check all the data to make sure that it matches what you need in the system. Many people have data washing machines inside Eloqua that take a look at all of the data and find bad data and try to fix it inside of Eloqua. And as Richard said, what if you could do all that fixing before it actually gets in? So that's what I'm going to show you here with our Upload Wizard. So I'm in our sandbox, so there's a lot of garbage in here, but I'll try to keep the focus on exactly what we're trying to show with the Upload Wizard. So I've got a test file here, and this probably looks familiar to, you know, it's a pretty standard set of data here. This happens to be an example from an insurance company. So the other thing that, one of the other things the Upload Wizard does is it allows you to take data that needs to go into your contact files, as well as information that's going to go into custom objects, and load them up at the same time. So normally, if you had to load data into your custom objects and contacts, you'd have to do two different uploads, one going directly into the contacts and one going into your custom object table. So what I'm going to show you is actually how we combine that into one list upload and do some validation along the way. So these first four columns here are going to be the data that goes into the contact record. And these four columns are going to be data that goes into the custom object, what would be, in this case, an insurance policy custom object. And what we're going to do is validate some of this information on the way in and split this information between contacts and custom objects. So if I go back to our Eloqua system, we have an Eloqua uploader, which is one of the app menu items. And I've got this all set up ready to go in another window here. So the first part of this process is probably similar to what you're familiar with using the Eloqua out-of-the-box upload process. We ask you to define the shared list that you want to add the contacts to. We have a list of all of our folders, and so you can identify which folder this is going to go into. So I'm going to put it into our testing area folder. And then I need to find the actual file, so I can browse through it. And because I've got this all set up, I've got my demo file set up ready to go. And then the next step is to upload the file. Again, this is going to look very familiar. It's a mapping process where the data, if the source file has names that Eloqua has as target fields, they're going to automatically find those fields and map directly to the contact field as well. And then you'll notice down here we have some fields that are not mapped to the contact, because those are the ones that are going to go into the custom object. So I'm going to save this mapping because everything defaulted the way I wanted it to. You could go in and change those mappings as well, and add fields that may not have mapped exactly to the contact fields. The next thing we're going to do is find the custom object that we want to go into. And so we've got a lot of custom objects because we do a lot of things with custom object work. And so here's the custom object table that I want to go into. It's going to first find the email address field and default that. And then I can add other mapping from the Excel file into my custom object. So I'm going to take my policy type and map that to the policy type in my custom object. And I'm going to add the policy ID. So the 4 fields that I told you about that go into the custom object are going to be mapped here to the fields in the custom object table itself. And so here we've got the 4 fields that are now mapped into the custom object table. So that's the first additional element that we've added to the upload process. You'll notice we have this tab up here called modules, and that's because we can add multiple modules to our upload wizard. The first one that comes along with the out of the box is the custom object import. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to look at the content type validation, which is another out of the box process that we have. And this is a very simple validation. I can check any or all of these boxes. And for example, I know that I have a date field in there. And so it's going to check to make sure that the date matches the date format of month, month, day, day, year, 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 year. And if it were not to match, then that record would be kicked out as a reject. It would not go into the system. So you would not have invalid data in the system, but rather you would have a file of rejected records that you could go and fix before you move them in. There are other types of validation that we have included, not in my demo here, but one of the most popular ones is a pick list validation. So for example, if you had a pick list of country codes or state codes or status values, you could select different fields that had valid pick lists, and you could also include those in this validation. I'm going to talk about a couple others in a minute here, but I want to get the upload started while I discuss that. So the next step is to just complete the upload. I'm going to get an email sent to me when the upload is completed. So I'm going to go in and complete the upload. And while that process is going on, talk about some of the other validation that we have available for you. So for example, we have some customers who have had us customize a process where it looks at the contact table itself. So for each record that comes in, we look to see if that contact record exists. And if it does, then we look to see if there's a specific value, for example, or MID might be required if the contact already exists in the system. So we can customize the upload wizard to look for just about any type of validation that you need. The types of validations that you do today in your spreadsheet, we're able to put that into the upload wizard so that you can validate that before it comes in. And as Richard said, even hand it off to your salespeople so that they can do the upload by themselves. And you're confident that the information that goes into the system will be validated by your rules, or it won't go in. So, so now we have the data in the system. So remember, here's my test 80 values here. So these records are now in the system. And if I look at one of these records and check the linked record, you'll see the custom object record was added in here. And the information from that record from the list upload is there as well. So, basically what we're showing here is the ability to load contact information along with custom object information in the same list upload, being able to validate information as it comes into the system so that you can feel confident that your system will not include bad data, and you can be less concerned about having complex and sometimes complicated, very complex data wash machine programs. So that's the Upload Wizard. Richard, I'm going to send it back to you.
Great, thank you very much, Tom. That was fantastic. I know that we have a lot of customers who use this, and it's a great time saver. It improves the data quality and makes it much easier for folks to think of the Upload Wizard as their lead engine. So up next, we have a brand new app that we want to share with you today. We're very excited about. It's Merge Contacts. As you know, for many years, marketers have pleaded with a solution to remove duplicate contacts. You can do this today in most CRMs, but it's not a feature of Eloqua. It's actually the #1 enhancement on Topliners. And it's also a top request from our own customers. So we created a solution that can preserve activity history and merge contacts. Tom, why don't we see a demo of that?
All righty, this is one of my favorite apps. Okay, let me go back to Eloqua. And so another app cloud menu we have here is the Merge Contacts. So just click the Merge Contacts and it comes up with a very simple screen to allow you to merge two contacts together. In this situation, you need to know which contacts you want to merge. So the normal example is something like T Sycheck at Forethought Marketing and Tom Sycheck at Hotmail, for example. I'm going to use some test records that I have here, which are T Sycheck and T Sycheck 44. You'll notice that as I'm typing, it's looking into the system and it's giving me the list of all of my test contacts that are there. So I don't have to type the entire record in, but I do need to know which records I'm going to merge. Contact A is the record that's going to be retained. So this email address will be retained in the system when we're done with the merge process. T Sycheck 44 is going to go away. And I'm going to show you a couple things that we can do with this record before it's actually deleted. So the first thing we're going to do is look for these two records. And the system is going to come up with a preset list of fields that you define. And I'm going to show you how you can define those fields that will allow you to move data from contact B into contact A. So initially, you'll see that the check marks all show up for contact A, and the merged contact right now looks exactly like contact A. But for example, I happen to know that T Sycheck, the company, is actually Forethought Marketing. So when I check the box here for Forethought Marketing, the merged contact now shows that data. I know that Tom is a CTO, not the CEO, so I'm going to check that and change the title to CTO. And I also noticed down here that the website is wrong. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the website to be the correct website. So this is a very simple process for you to identify the information in the two records, choose which information you want to move from contact B into contact A, and then this will be your merge contact. The next thing, and this is one of the most important aspects of this, is to look at the Eloqua activities. So one of the reasons why this has been such a hard process to build is that Eloqua does not allow you to move activities between contacts. So what we've done is we've built a process where we look for, and you'll see it's taking a while to find the activities, but we look for all the activities in contact B, and we're going to take those activities and create them as external activities in contact A. So what we've got here is there are two email sends for contact B and a website visit. And when I click merge now, what's going to happen is that this information from contact B is going to go over to contact A, and these activities are going to end up in contact A as external activities that reflect the information, that reflect the activities that contact B did. So I'm going to click merge contact now, and while that's going on, I'm going to show you the setup that's behind the scenes. You'll notice here that there's a little message that says I'm going to get an email when it's completed. I think I already got that email. So here we have the list of fields that we can merge. So this is in your app setup area, and I can add any other fields in my list that I want to add in here. And actually, city's already in there, so I'm not going to do that. But I can add any other fields to the list of fields that I want to be able to merge information from contact B into contact A. As the administrator, you control this list. When the user comes in, they're going to see the screen that I showed you initially. There are many other things that we can do with this, however. So for example, one of the requests we've had from folks is to be able to store the old email address from contact B. And so we've given you two options to do that. One, stored in a contact field on contact A. And we have some options. If you do this more than once, you can ignore the second one, you can overwrite, or you could even append the various emails together if you thought that there were going to be multiple email addresses merged into one contact A. The second option is to put them into a custom object. So we have a historical custom object table here. And I can choose which the email address from contact A and the email address from contact B, and I can save this historical information into a custom object as well. So you can choose options as a way to store the email address of the record that was deleted. Likewise, objects, if you do a lot of custom objects, there may be times when you want to move custom objects from contact B to contact A. And so you can simply select any of the custom object tables that might have information for contact B and move those over as well. Again, this is the administrator taking configuration. This is all pre-done for the user. The next item is to be able to archive that information. So we've given you the ability to take the information from contact B and put them into an SFTP server and store that original contact record as an archive. So in case you ever need to get that information back for the entire record, you can do that here on the SFTP server. And then finally, when we create the external activities, Eloqua does require that we have a campaign that the external activities are associated with. And so we have the ability for you to choose a default campaign so those activities can indeed move over to the merged record. Once that record is merged, you will get an email. This is actually an earlier one because I want to make sure I had this for the demo. But basically, this tells you where you stored the old email address. In this case, we stored it in the contact field. We didn't have the SFTP file set up, so there's an error. Tells me the number of activities that were merged over, and then the contact that was updated and the contact that was deleted. So this is a historical record for you of the information that basically the results of the merge process itself. So again, can do this over and over again. You can merge multiple contacts into one just by coming in here and adding those contacts together, or you can go through your system. Often what we see is that people are merging contacts, as Richard said, in their CRM system, and then need to be able to come into Eloqua and merge them here as well. And so now you've got a way to do that, very simple and complete process to take two contacts together, merge them into one, and delete the one that you no longer want. Richard, back to you.
Great, thank you, Tom. That was a great demo. As a reminder, everyone, if you have questions, just click on the Q&A button and we'd be happy to answer those. And now let's see our most recent addition to the Forethought family. This is the Carbon Copy Related Contact or REP Cloud app. And Tom, let's just jump right into this. One of the things I like to talk about with this particular app is this is the can you please carbon copy me when you contact my accounts from sales? This is a common question I've heard many, many times, and this is the answer to it, we think.
Okay, you caught me a little bit off guard. I thought you were going to take a little bit longer.
That's okay.
All right. Okay, so I have a campaign here, and I have these 10 records. I'm going to move these records. I had them in a different step for the demo. So I'm going to move these 10 records, and I'm going to show you what it's going to do. It's actually going to do it as I'm talking. So these 10 records exist here, and we've this field called account owner email. So we've got 10 records, 10 test records. You'll notice that the account owner email, there are only 4 unique values here. There's TSayCheck 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we want to do is we want to send an email to these account owners that reflects the email that these 10 individuals received. So, so we've got this campaign. These 10 contacts are brought into the campaign. They're going to go through the app that we just built, and then they're going to be sent an email. While that's going on, what the app is going to do is find those folks in the related field and import them into this campaign so that they can also be sent that email. So the configuration for this is pretty simple. It simply looks for the account owner email, whichever field is on the contact record that has the email address of the person you want to add into the campaign, and tell it where to go. In this case, we're going to step 400, the import. So I'm going to refresh this, and it should not take long. It depends on how long Eloqua is going to take to move these records through the process. But basically what's going to happen is they're going to come into the cloud app. It's going to find those 4 unique records and then add them back into the import, so that those individuals, those account owners, will get the same email that your contacts are getting. This part of the demo is completely dependent on Eloqua running the process. So we're waiting for that to happen. And this is the part of the demo that I don't like. Richard, anything you want to add to this while we wait for the demo to complete?
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question. I
Sure.
see here in your example that you're talking about including them directly into a campaign itself. I know that for another client of ours, they're using this to add them to subscriptions, or so that they're always included when an email is sent to a particular group. Is that also possible? And how's that work?
Then they're added to a subscription.
So just like here where we're sending them to another email, we
sure.
just add them to an email group.
Sure. So yeah, so here good question. Let me show the rest of the demo before we get there. Whoops, these guys have already moved into the next step. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so here are the 4 contacts that were added in. You know it's a demo because it didn't happen as smoothly as I would have liked it to. So here are the 4 contacts that were added in. Now I think, Richard, what you're asking is, could we have added these contacts somewhere else? And the answer is, they can go anywhere into this campaign. So in this case, yes, they are being added into this campaign to be sent an email, but this campaign, or could be a program canvas as well, could be added in to add these contacts to whatever other process you want them to go to. In this case, we want them to get the same email that the original contacts are getting, but we could also add these associated or related contacts into, as you said, into an email group, and sorry, a contact group, or a shared list or into a program to get processed the same way that the original contacts are getting processed. Is that your question?
That was it. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So so my demo worked. I'm glad to see that. And we just have them. I'm not going to send the email, but the key thing here is to show that the unique records, the unique contacts that were in the account owner email field, so these 1 through 4 contacts, were added into the same campaign, and we'll go through processing that you defined for them, in this case, to get sent that email. And let's go back to the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Tom, for your great work on all those demos. We'll now move into the Q&A portion of today's webinar. As a reminder, if you have questions, please click on the Q&A button and ask your question, and we'll get to them as quickly as possible. Now, we have one question, Tom, come in, and this one is about merge contacts. I noticed that you are on version 1.1 of the product. Do you have other items on your roadmap that you want to add to this that you're looking to do in the future?
As a matter of fact, yes. We've had a lot of feedback from folks who have looked at and are using the Merge Contact app. One of the probably most popular ones is to be able to do multiple contacts at the same time. To be able to use this as an app in a program and just feed contacts into that program. That will probably be in our next release. It does take a couple things to get there. One is to have a predefined set of fields that are going to be moved from contact B to contact A. And so in the demo that I showed, the individual, the user, could select which fields we're going to move from contact B to contact A. In order to put this into an app, you won't have that choice because everything will be done automatically. So in the next release, we'll have the ability for the administrator to define the specific fields that will move from contact B to A, if any. I mean, potentially it could be that there will be no fields moved over, that the activities would be moved, then to identify a field, a methodology to connect the checked records together. And so we haven't quite worked out all the details of it, but basically you would feed into the program contact A, there would be a way to find contact B and then do the merge. So that's definitely a high priority for many people. The other one that's another common request, a little bit more difficult to do, is to have Eloqua find similar contacts that might be duplicates. This is kind of the holy grail of deduplication, is to be able to find two contacts, maybe have the same first name, last name, same company, same city or state, and determine that those indeed are duplicates, and then automatically merge them. That is definitely on our roadmap. We don't have a specific time when that will be ready for release yet.
Great, thank you. You actually answered my second question here, to be able to find duplicates and actively merge them, so thank you.
Yep.
That's actually all the questions we have today. Unfortunately, Rick had to leave early for something urgent, so we do appreciate his time for being with us today. And especially,
Richard, excuse me, there is another question I just saw come up.
Oh.
Which was, is there an option to merge and not delete, but move contact B into another program to a different state? We have not had that question come up before, but we certainly could do that. We can add it in the roadmap, but if that's something that whoever is asking this question, if they wanted that to have that included immediately, that would not be difficult for us to do as well.
Thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you next time.